Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Avani Ratan. I'm a faculty at Conceptual Psychology, and today we are going to discuss about causes and cures of stereotyping, prejudice, and discrimination. I welcome you all to today's lecture. Let's start with it. Let me tell you a story that perfectly illustrates how the same event can be seen through completely different lenses. On August 9th, 2014, in Ferguson, Missouri, United States, two lives intersected in a way that would spark nationwide protest. Michael Brown, an 18-year-old black man, and Darren Wilson, a 28-year-old white police officer, had an encounter that ended with Brown's death. But here's where our psychological story really begins. It's not with what happened, but with how different groups perceived what happened. So, in the tale of the two realities, the Black Americans' perspective was that 80% saw this as highlighting important racial issues. But the white Americans' perspective was that 47% believed that these racial issues were getting more attention than deserved. So, this isn't just about different opinions, it's about how our group membership it fundamentally shapes what we see, what we feel, and what we believe about the reality itself. So, how members of different groups perceive inequality? Let's start with that. First, I'll be discussing about the story of moving goalposts. I would want you to imagine two friends, Alex, who's white, and Jordan, who's black, watching the same football game. So when their team scores, Alex celebrates that, yay, we are winning. But Jordan notices the other team is catching up and he feels anxious. It's the same game, same score, but entirely different emotional experiences. This is exactly what happens with social inequality. It's not that one group is right and the other is wrong. They are literally experiencing the same reality, but differently, right? So, here, this is what, how groups perceive inequality. Now, when we talk about the loss versus the gain framework, where the whites they see equality as the potential loss of historical privilege, the blacks see equality as potential gain from the historical advantage, the disadvantage. Right? So the losses they feel twice as powerful psychologically as equivalent gains. When we discuss about Obama, here's a fascinating psychological twist, which is that when Barack Obama was elected president, you would expect that racial attitudes would improve, right? But unfortunately, no. What actually happened was that the white Americans felt less need for further racial progress. The support for equality policies also decreased significantly. The presence of one successful black leader made many believe racism is solved. So, what does this teach us about? It teaches us about token effect. Token effect is how a few visible successes can mask the ongoing systemic issues. All right, so here it is the very few successes, it masks the ongoing systemic issues. What does research tell us about the biases in our beliefs about inequality? The first is the wealth inequality blind spot, where if I ask you to picture this, that you ask the Americans, how much wealth do the richest 20% own? People's guess is 59%, but the reality is 84%. What they think it should be 32%. So it's like asking someone to guess the height of a building while standing inside it. So our social position, it limits our perspective, right? But why does this happen? It happens A, because of the bubble effect, that we judge the society based on our immediate social circle. Right. Second, it also happens because of a segregative life. Wealthy and poor rarely interact meaningfully. Then we also fall into the comparison trap. We compare ourselves to similar others who are missing the bigger picture. So the social circle study, in this, the researchers found that people's estimates of national income, it closely reflected their own household income and their friends' income, right? Here, people's estimate of national income either was close to their own income, it reflected that, or probably one of their friends, right? Whereas the wealthy people, they estimated that everyone was wealthy. They failed to see inequality. Poor people estimated everyone struggled financially. So what is the result? The result is that the status quo, it seemed fair. Wealth redistribution opposed. So we assume that the world looks like our neighborhood, which is a very dangerous assumption in an unequal society. Right? Now, what are the nature and the origins of stereotyping? We need to start with understanding the trinity, which is stereotypes, prejudice, and discrimination. So, think of these three as characters in your psychological drama, where stereotype is the thinker. So, here, stereotype is that I believe women are more emotional, or the prejudice is the feeler. I dislike emotional people, and discrimination is the actor. I won't hire women for leadership roles, right? So the thinker has a cognitive component that I believe women are more emotional. The feeler has an emotional component that I dislike emotional people. The discrimination, which is the actor, has a behavioral component that I won't hire women for leadership roles. Now, these often work together, but these can also act independently. That's what makes them so complex. And that's what makes them so complex to understand and address. Now, what are stereotypes? What is stereotyping? So, stereotyping is the beliefs about social groups. So, let me paint you a picture of two mythical lands. One is the land of women, which is the Bomlandia, maybe. The citizens here are kind, they are nurturing, they are considerate, but also viewed as dependent, weak, and overly emotional. They have a high warmth, but they have a low competence. Okay, now there is another land, which is the land of men, which is known as competencia. So here, citizens are decisive, they are assertive, They are accomplished, but also seen as aggressive, insensitive, arrogant. They have high competence and low warmth. Now, what does this tell us? This tells us about the women are wonderful paradox. So, here's the cruel irony that people actually like women more than men overall because the women are wonderful effect is already there. But these wonderful traits are exactly what keeps women out of leadership positions, right? It's like saying you're too nice to be a boss, which is a compliment that becomes a career killer, right? When we talk about stereotypes and the glass ceiling, imagine a building where women can see all the way to the top floor. They can even take an elevator most of the way up. But there's an invisible barrier which is preventing them from reaching the executive levels. The numbers tell us the corporate glasshouse story where only 16% of the corporate officers are women. Only 1% of Fortune 500 CEOs are women. Women hold 33% of Supreme Court positions, which is the highest ever. Talking more about stereotypes, think manager, think male, right? When you hear the word manager, you often associate it to must be a male. So here's the psychological trap. When people think manager, they automatically think of traits associated with men, which is a manager stereotype. Decisive, assertive, tough, competitive, right? What is the male stereotype? Same. Decisive, assertive, tough, competitive. Now, what is a female stereotype? Kind, warm, supportive, collaborative. So, this creates a lack of fit perception. Women seem wrong for leadership even when they are perfectly qualified, right? Now, when we talk about gender stereotypes and the glass cliff, let's picture the scenario where a company is sinking like the Titanic. Suddenly, they offer a woman the captain's position. Is this an opportunity or is it a setup for failure? So, here results are revealed by a research where women are more likely to be promoted when the organizations are in some sort of crisis. Men get leadership roles when things are going well. It's like being handed the keys to a car that's already crashed. What are few of these examples where we could actually see this in real life? Were the Sunoco oil, where the shares fell 52%, female CEO was appointed. The WH Smith, there was a major share drop, female CEO appointed. Iceland, where the economy collapsed and it got its first female prime minister. So we already have an experimental evidence that when presented with equally qualified male and female candidates in a risky situation, female candidates get chosen more often, whereas in a good prospect, the male candidate gets chosen more often. And yes, this pattern is consistent. Women get to lead where failure is likely.